Okay. All right. We are live. Welcome, everyone, to Living Mindfulness conversations on keeping it together or not. This is part learning and self discovery, part show, part podcast, part interview and conversation, and part live entertainment. So, I'm your host, Kathleen Michelle, founder of One Moment Center, which offers mindfulness experiences for transformation. In Living Mindfulness, we'll have conversations with folks who are dedicated to helping others live a balanced life. You'll hear our stories and about lessons learned the hard way. Sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's hilarious, and it's always wholehearted and entertaining. We keep it real in Living Mindfulness, so there are no edits or redos. We have a live audience in our Zoom chat box, so if you hear us referencing someone talking to us, we're not totally full of it, but I can't promise we aren't partially full of it. All right, so let's introduce our guest. I want to welcome Kym Zest from Zest Ed. And so Kym tells us that she lives in the Powderhorn neighborhood of Minneapolis with her kitty Pigeon and husband Will. In 2018, they founded Zest Ed. It's personalized coaching for outdoor adventures and endurance athletics. So before we decided to do this together, this is something that Kym was sharing with me. She said that there are so many exercise options at home and outdoors. You know, moving your body is good for your mind, but what should you do? How do you manage lifetime objectives of wellness with long-term goals of events with the immediate needs of today? So in here today, we'll be talking about what will bring you into balance in the moment, as well as over a lifetime. And Kym, before you introduce more about yourself, I also just want to say that not only is this topic of exercise and balance and mindfulness and bringing all three of those together, not only is this like a lifetime of relevance, but also just knowing what's going on in our world right now with COVID-19, and so many of us are at home, and this physical movement is so needed right now. We know that in trauma research that moving our body and feeling mobilized is so necessary for being able to get through tough times and stress and challenge without taking on more or having results that last, or I shouldn't say results, symptoms per se, that last past the event itself. So I am so glad for so many reasons that you're here and that you're joining us on our first episode of Living Mindfulness. So Kym, tell us more about yourself and Zest Ed, and then we can even talk a little bit about how we know each other.
Yeah. Well, I guess one thing that sort of both links to how we know each other and like why Zest Ed in this episode, because in the basic of like we do coaching for outdoor adventures and endurance athletics, mindfulness doesn't necessarily be like, where does that fit? When we first were creating the business, we did brainstorming on what we wanted the values of our business to be, and mindfulness is in there. Actually, if you go to our website and there's a tab for values, and mindfulness is right there. So this isn't something that we just made up for this show. I think the thing is that there are a variety of ways that people can get outside and be athletic or be fit. And there's obviously a lot of ways in which people are offering money and business in these fields. One of the things about our approach and the way we do this, and by our, I mean me and my husband, it's just the two of us, is having a reflective, introspective, base. You know, it's always more than just doing the thing. Whether the thing is a camping trip, or the thing is a bike event, or the thing is a squat, I am generally asking why, or at least if I know why, I want my people to know why. Why are we doing this? What purpose does this serve? Why have we chosen this particular thing versus all the other things?
Right.
So yeah, that's a little bit, and kind of going back to that, I mean, I'm just going to launch into that. Kathleen knew that about me because I don't know. Do you want to go into how you met me?
For sure.
Because that might
So
be a funny story. I want to hear you. I want to hear your impression of how you knew that about me.
okay, how many years ago was it now? Yeah, I don't even, I'm trying to remember how many years ago it was, and I do not remember. Many years ago now. So I was a member at a gym that turns out Kym taught classes at as well. And part of the reason I was going to the gym was to train for cycling events, endurance cycling events. And at this time, they were putting on 5-hour spin classes. 5-hour spin classes, which it's as absurd as it sounds. And so Kym was an instructor for one of those 5-hour spin classes. And it was so fun. And you were so knowledgeable. It was just so clear that you knew what you were doing and what to help every individual in the class with, which was brilliant. And then I will say, like, something that got us through those 5 hours was your storytelling. You shared with us about your Boundary Waters trip. Do you remember telling us about this? And the 3 different kinds of fun, which actually so can you share about that, the 3 kinds of fun?
Yeah. So this actually, I'm guessing that it was probably 6 years ago, because the big Boundary Waters trip is that my husband and I got married. And it was really kind of an excuse to do a dream Boundary Waters trip in which we traversed the Boundary Waters. We followed the Canadian border from from Voyageurs National Park in the west all the way east to Grand Portage and Lake Superior. It took us 19 days. And so very dirty, challenging, unsexy honeymoon. And so the types of fun, and this comes from mountaineering. My husband does more of the rock climbing, mountaineering. He works for Outward Bound. And there's classifications for climbing, and the people coming from mountaineering classified fun. So fun. Type 1 fun is the fun we hope to have all the time. It's sitting on a beach, drinking a cocktail, or watching a movie with some chocolate. Type 1 fun is classic fun.
Right. It's fun now and it's fun later.
Yeah, well, and it's classic.
Yes.
It's what we generally think of as fun.
Yes.
Type 2 fun is what I specialize in, which is where it's not fun at the time, but it's fun to tell the story later. So this is when, like, if you're outdoors and it's raining and you're sort of lost, or you're low on food and you're frustrated and tired and like 10 things are going wrong, but later at the bar, or you love retelling the story because it was dramatic and adventurous. I'd also say that, like, type 2 fun is often like the workout that you're like, oh, so hard. Like, I hate this. This is so hard. But like later you're like, I did that crazy hard long thing. So like a 5-hour cycle class is totally type 2 fun. Like, you sign up for it. You're like, what was I thinking? You get into it and you're in the middle of it. You're like, this is like, oh my God, my butt hurts, everything hurts. But you love being able to tell people that you did it. You're really proud of yourself. I think the big thing about type 2 fun is it's challenging by nature, but that is what creates growth, and it's what we're proud of. We're generally not really proud to tell people that we sat on a beach drinking cocktails, but we're usually, type 2 fun is the kind of things that make us proud of ourselves and teach us things about ourselves, and make for good stories. So that's type 2 fun. And then there's another one, there's type 3 fun, and Will and I disagree about where type 3 fun sort of starts. But Will says that it's only type 3 fun when someone dies. I say type 3 fun is basically, it wasn't fun at the time, and it's still a regrettable, unfortunate experience that you would never do, you wouldn't repeat. I think type 2 fun usually is miserable at the time. It's a good story later, and we voluntarily choose to put ourselves in that position again. So you can kind of decide. We actually, it's not uncommon to maybe even have a little tension about where things are on that honeymoon trip. At one point, it was, like sleeting, and I was miserable, and I was like,
Oh no.
"This is type 3 fun," and he was like, "No, because we haven't capsized, the bear hasn't stolen our food, and like we're fine." And I was like, "Fun, it's 2.7."
2.7 fun.
Yeah.
That's so great. Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So Kym, anything else that you would like to share about Zest Ed then? I mean, you're saying that you specialize in type 2 fun. Anything else you want to share about like how you came to create Zest Ed?
Yeah. So let's see here. I've been in the world of athletics for forever, since I was of working age. I like to say that I had an old school apprenticeship. My dad is a coach, and I just grew up in that environment. So other than like a brief period in which I rebelled and thought I would do something else with my life, I've come to terms with that this is my calling. This is what I do. And before starting Zest Ed, I had worked at the YWCA as an endurance sports coach. I actually still work there as a swim coach. And I've just been personal training. I've been coaching kids, coaching adults, coaching people in a variety of ways for probably close to 15 years in one form or another. And Zest Ed is really a time where, as an adult and in my professional life, I was ready to like really create my own service. And the base of that is educating people to do it themselves. I don't want to just I'm not the kind of coach or the kind of trainer that wants to just give you a thing to do and just be like, just follow it. Don't ask questions, just do it. I very much encourage people to ask questions. I very much want people to understand why I've suggested that they do a certain thing. And again, it's all about a dialogue. So with the people I work with, it's all about like, this is my recommendation for the workout or the exercise or the training plan, whether it's training for a 5K or a marathon or a triathlon. I generally specialize in endurance sport activities, outdoor and endurance sports, or a big hike. Some lots of people I've worked with are training because they want to do this big hike or bike or travel adventure sort of things.
Right.
And I always want to have that conversation about, like, why are you doing this? What is your motivation? What do you want to get out of this? And then when I provide any of that workouts or training plans, this is why I'm suggesting these things. This is why each piece is in the place it is. This is how we want to put these pieces come together, or if these pieces need to come apart, this is what the effect will be. So that's the base of the kind of services I offer. And after that, there's a bunch of different choices and levels in which I work with people, but that's the base.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And at the end, we'll go through the different ways that people can reach out to you and look at more about Zest Ed. So if you're curious about knowing more about Kym and Zest Ed, hang in there till the end. So let's get grounded, and then we'll go into more of like the meat of our content together. Does that sound good to everybody? I see everybody nodding their head, thumbs up. Okay, so we're going to keep this really simple, and you're going to hear me use this. I love my singing bowl. I love using it especially for grounding. So you're going to hear that, and it's going to be part of our grounding. So wherever you are right now, just go ahead and find a comfortable position where your spine can be long. So whether you're sitting down or you're standing, as long as you can have a long spine and an open chest so we can breathe easily. And of taking on this posture of dignity and strength, of alertness and awareness, but also being at rest. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes or keep a soft gaze while looking down. And just notice the breath that you have right now. With mindfulness, we simply become aware of our experience as it is. No need to analyze or judge. No need to force it to change or even stay. So just noticing, observing and witnessing the breath that brought you to this moment. And then noticing your body, maybe from head to toe or from toe to head. Just scanning for any observations. Areas of stress or tightness, or even areas of calm and openness. Just allow this. You may notice that as you bring your awareness to something, it might shift all on its own. And again, we can just be aware that that's happening. Just allow. Then as we're in our body, let's also notice emotions. Our emotions speak to us through our body sensations. There might be a dominant emotion or some quieter ones. You may notice them as pleasant or unpleasant, though again, no need to even label, let alone analyze. Our emotions are absolutely our inner wisdom. They are full of purpose, full of guidance. Maybe even taking a moment to honor them. And now coming into your mind and just noticing generally how your mind is doing right now. Monkey mind, calm mind, open mind, worried mind. And again, just noticing. This is the mind that brought you here to this moment. Just like clouds in the sky, leaves in a stream, we can even notice our thoughts. Let them float by. And intentionally bringing our awareness back to our breath. Seeing if we can gently encourage our breath to become a little slower, a little deeper. Having even breaths, so our inhales and our exhales are the same. As you hear the sound of the singing bell, allow your breath to anchor you in, to be here now in this time and this space. Staying with your breath. If your mind wanders, that's okay. It's just your brain doing what it's built to do. Gently guide yourself back to your breath. And bring your chin into your chest. Connect with an intention, such as for well-being or open-mindedness, for learning. An intention to bring with you for the rest of our practice, for the rest of our learning and conversation today. And with a deep inhale and a sighing exhale, gently blink your eyes, coming back to the room. All right. Thank you for practicing, everyone. Thank you for practicing that little bit of mindfulness. And if you caught in there, I gave us a little information about at least my definition of mindfulness, of being present in the moment, witnessing your experience without judging. And that's as simple as that is. So you don't even have to carve out a half an hour to practice. It's just whatever you're doing right now, bringing your awareness to it and as fully as possible. So Kym, with that, I was wondering if you could maybe even speak to a little bit about mindfulness and Zested and what that has to do with what we're going to talk about with mindfulness and exercise and finding balance today. I know that's kind of a lot and kind of loaded, but anything, oh, I dropped something. Sorry about that. Anything you can share with us would be so great.
Yeah, well, I think especially with speaking to this time right now that we're all in really stressful and just most of us are just not living the life that we imagined we'd be living 3 weeks ago. We're all more stuck at home than we were before, whether you're like, yeah, I'm fine with being at home. I know some other people who work at home anyways, or who, right? But this is definitely a time of change for everyone. And I think one big mindful thing is just how are we responding to that? How is our stress sort of arriving in our bodies? And what do we need for that? So for some people, when it comes to movement, and a lot of this is going to come from conversations I'm having with clients now, but is do we want to really stick with routine? For some people right now in this time of stress and lots of things are changing, a huge what they need, when I say, how are you feeling? What do you need? Is thinking, I want to stick with the exercise routine I was doing before as much as possible. Obviously with some changes because the gyms are closed, but the general routine, sticking with that. And for other people, and this is for myself included, I just feel like I need to completely assess what I was doing before. I can't bring no motivation to do what I was doing before. Or it's just so much of it is so inaccessible that a complete overhaul is needed.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is just the start is just asking yourself, how am I responding? How do I feel? What do I feel like I need right now? And I would, to some degree, it's going to also be with what's familiar. I would say, some people love to be super adventurous, but in times of stress and times of change, it's pretty normal to want to grasp onto familiar things. So I would actually say, to not get too crazy inventive, at least not if you're feeling a lot of stress, right? If you're feeling super disrupted, and it sort of depends on where you are with when some of these changes hit you, because I think for all of us, depending on when work or daily life got affected, it's a little different for people. And also what else they're managing. Some people are still working, some people are not working at all.
Right.
But if someone is feeling a lot of stress, and however that's manifesting, if it's like headaches, sleeplessness, digestive problems, however that's manifesting, I would suggest reaching for sort of known, familiar activities
Yeah.
that have been tried and true to help you in the past. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
that could be a variety. I mean, sometimes in terms of movement, that could be just going for a walk. That could be yoga. That could be going for a run. It could be going for a bike ride. Of course, one of the challenges right now is that if your known comforting movement is inaccessible, that makes things more challenging. So I know a lot of swimmers, and right now this is really hard for them because their go-to exercise method to cope with stress is like 100% inaccessible.
Right.
They can't. There's no swimming. There is no swimming right now. Even though the lakes are clear,
Right.
you couldn't do any sustained swimming in the lakes right now.
Right.
So with that, it's thinking like if you are in sort of crisis mode of coping with stress in your mind, in your body, like fall back on the things that you know work. And then I would say if the things you know work are not available, thinking about what is it about that activity that usually makes me feel better.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
And how can I reincorporate that? So,
Yes.
I mean, so for some swimmers, I would say, again, using swimming as an example, because that is so deeply inaccessible right now.
Right.
Like, I think for a lot of swimmers, you could say it's a repetitive motion. It's usually I think not everyone realizes it, but oftentimes swimming is a very interesting sensory experience because there's water flowing over your skin.
Yes.
And like the sounds are different when you are like your head is underwater. There's actually sort of a sensory deprivation that we don't normally get in daily life. No one can talk to you while you're swimming.
Right. Yeah.
You can't talk to people while you're swimming. So some people are like, but I really like my swimming community. Yes, in the locker room is where you like, and in the hot tub is when you talk to, but like the act of swimming, the actual exercise portion is actually antisocial. So,
yes.
How thinking like, are there ways I can sort of recreate that? Are there, and it might have to happen in different ways, and it takes some creativity
yes.
to rethink that. And that's partially what I do coaching wise, is helping people talk through that and figure it out and troubleshoot. But I would say for many people, and the other thing, I would say for many people, swimming is not their thing. Swimming is a big one, but
yes,
it's going, if I can't do my first choice, what's my second choice?
And actually, since we're kind of talking about that, like, is anybody who's live with us here, feel free to send us what you like to do. Like, what are your go-to activities, from yoga to endurance or adventure, or do you like to hit the gym and the weights? Like, just let us know what you like to do. So I see some swimming coming through. So that's perfect for you, Kym. And then Kym, continuing this conversation into, you created this amazing document or worksheet or formula to like help guide people in being more mindful and how they can balance, right? Like not just like what they like to do and what their go-to is, but then sometimes, okay, like what do we maybe need to do to make our end game stronger, right? So do you feel comfortable going into that and sharing some of that with us?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right. So like there's just like the initial thing, right? Like, oh, right, what do I need right this instant to like stop freaking out?
Yes.
And then oftentimes the other danger is that people get stuck in that rut. Once if you found the thing that you like,
yes.
which that's another, we can get down that rabbit hole of how do you find what you like if you don't know. But if you know, you're like, this is what I like. And I see that John was saying, like running on the treadmill or track.
Yeah. In the gym.
Right. Doing weight, like machine weights. Anyhow, whatever it is that you know, And we'll come back to sort of how we modify. But the other thing is that people get really rutted down in that. I know what I like. I know what works for me. I know what feels good for me. And then they just do that over and over again,
Right.
day in and day out. And some people I know just really get stuck on running, for example. They're like, running calms my mind. Running feels good for me. For all sorts of reasons, other logistical things, they like just being able to get out the door. Right. Outdoor running anyway is one of the more accessible things to do, as opposed to swimming being the other end of least accessible things. But there are two problems with that. One is just physiologically, like, that is not going to bring you into balance.
Yes.
So it doesn't fulfill all the needs. And I'll share that. I'm going to share the worksheet in a second here, and then all things will make more sense. But like, running in itself works not only just the same muscles, but the same energy systems in your body. And you're just not getting all the physiological benefits of different types of exercise. The other problem is also just like mentally, emotionally, energetically, it's also not feeding different things. It's not balancing you out. So I am a naturally very type A, high strung person. And
maybe
when
that's why we connected.
You're like, woo!
Our energies were in line.
Yeah, very. Yeah. How much can I practice? Yeah, very.
Yes.
And I think, everyone has, gravitates to different personality types, and right, everyone has that. There's different ones. It doesn't matter what you are, but and generally that's gonna say something with the kind of exercise that you gravitate towards as well. So like, if you're a type A driven, focused person, it's very likely that, you most naturally gravitate towards exercises like, let's say, CrossFit, or performance focused things that are measured and have like starts and ends and right, and clear progressions, and like, I ran 6 miles at this pace, and the next time I ran 7 miles at this pace. And the thing is that, like, while that just might instinctively feed your natural tendencies, it will also just snowball those natural tendencies. So this actually brings up, when I did my yoga teacher training back in 2013-ish, because I was a very athletic person and, very focused and meticulous, people were like, oh, you're going to really like Ashtanga yoga. It's really precise and has a very clear structure and is more athletic of some of the yoga styles. And what I learned in that process of going through yoga teacher training was that I didn't need more of that in my life. I already did a lot of that in my life. And I ended up specializing in yin yoga, which is like the absolute other end of the spectrum.
Yes.
It is
yes, it
full
is.
of stillness. It is like the opposite of striving. It is the opposite of achieving. And but that's what I needed, and I didn't realize it before my yoga teacher training. I wasn't able to like put that in words, be like, oh, this is what I need. So like, energetically, mentally, emotionally, I needed practices that would like take the foot off the gas pedal.
Yes. And I love what you just said there too, right? It's not just like physically, it's the mentally, emotionally, energetically. Like, balance isn't just in one area.
Yeah.
We can talk about balance in these very different parts of our humanness. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I guess you are going through yoga teacher training right now.
I am.
So
I'm a baby at it though. I'm a baby at it. I've just begun. So
it will be interesting as you discover different methods.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I think so. It's thinking about these different kinds of balance, like both within your body, but also what you need. And on the flip side, I also work with people, and I've definitely known lots of people who are the opposite version of me. They really like quiet practices. They are a chill and mellow person, right?
What's that like?
Yeah, right. Like, takes a lot to rile them. You know, they tend towards quiet, relaxed demeanors, and they love activities like sort of classic yoga and Pilates, and like there's a bunch of different practices and like physical activities that lend themselves towards that personality type. And with those people, I really worked with them to do like high intensity stuff. It's like, we need to get your heart rate up. We need to do we need to work some fast movements. We need to work some speed. We need to get your heart rate up. We need to work some power. We need to do some raw strength. And they're like, well, I do some strength in my yoga. I was like, but not at full, not at full power. And so physically, emotionally, energetically, like, right, it's this idea of you need to be able to do balance, and it is totally normal to have resistance to that. Like,
Yes, I'm so glad that you are mentioning that, like just that, how normal that is. And even using mindfulness in that to be like, this is, yes, I have resistance to this and I can still choose differently, right?
yeah, totally. And I would love to hear, you know, from you, like, how, I'm sure you work with people resisting things, people who are like, I don't wanna, like, what do you do with, like, what are your techniques, and how do you talk to people who might be aware that they need something different, but it's like they're just getting so much pushback?
Yeah. Do you want me to speak to that now?
Yeah.
Sure. Cool. Well, so I'll also just say, like, in my other life, I am a mental health therapist. And so some of what I bring to One Moment Center is very much influenced from my work and research in that area. However, for mindfulness, and this is what I will even bring to my therapy sessions time as well, is that when we're using mindfulness, we're just witnessing our experience without reacting, right? So when we can notice and be aware, we're putting space between our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors. And in that space between, we get choice to respond in a way that's value driven. So for example, if our value is to have balance, we're going to work on choosing something that brings us balance, even if right now in this moment, I'm just wanting the same over and over again. If I know that long-term, I need something different, we can choose that. So with that resistance though, that is part of our normal human experience, is that we resist things that are uncomfortable or we believe will be in any way uncomfortable, mentally, emotionally, physically, or otherwise. And so when we can, again, just notice that, witness that, and even have curiosity around that resistance, go, what's going on within me right now? Like, where does that come from? Is that helpful or unhelpful? But we're not judging it per se, and we're not analyzing it per se. We're simply bringing curiosity to our experience. And often, and I don't know if anybody else has experienced this or not, let me know, people out there in Zoom chat land, if you can relate to this, or Kym, you as well. But like, sometimes just stopping and noticing and witnessing our own experience, it's like some of the rigidity falls away, or some of our grasp or clinging to something starts to just dissolve and opens us up, gives us almost that neuroplasticity, opening our mind to something different. And so I don't know if that's answering your question exactly, Kym, but just normalizing for ourselves that resistance happens, it's normal, and we can be curious about it. And in doing that, we can start opening things up for ourselves without trying.
Yeah, I that is a great perspective, and it's always just interesting to, we're always working with ourselves on ourselves, but it's always nice to hear like different ways to right? Different approaches.
Yeah.
How I sort of sneak up on myself and figure out another access point to myself. I was noticing some of the things people have written in the chat column, and one thing that I think a lot of people are sensing is like their normal routines and structures are gone.
Yes.
And I think to some degree that's like there's no quick answer to that other than we are all restructuring our lives and having to find new structure and like new anchor points to our days. Right? So if going to work was an anchor, running errands was an anchor, or going to the gym was an anchor, to like how you structure your time, and we're all of us are trying to restructure our daily lives.
Absolutely. And can I say something really quick to that? I'm sorry, I think I might have just interrupted you.
No.
Zoomland might have a lag. I apologize. So also keeping in mind, like with that perspective of mindfulness, how important it is to be gentle with ourselves during this time and have compassion for ourselves during this time. Because when we're going through these big changes, another way to talk about this is that we're all going through grief. We have all lost our normal, right? We, in one way or another, I'm seeing a lot of people nodding that, yeah, like, because we're all going through this. So whether it's a loss of a job, a loss of how you do your job, a loss of the activities that brought you joy, the loss of connecting with people. There's just so many adjustments, and in that adjustment comes stress. And so grief is inherently stressful. And really just taking the time to honor that for yourself and to not judge yourself for having a hard time, or even trying to get into this discounting yourself of like, oh, well, I don't have it as bad as so-and-so. Like, we don't need to do that, right? Like that is not helpful to us witnessing our own experience and offering ourselves compassion through this process. So that's my little side soapbox. Sorry about that, Kym.
No.
Please continue.
No, that's great. I feel like that's exactly why this is a conversation, is because one person, because we think of different ways to respond to this situation.
Yeah.
So I had one more, I had another thought about some of the stuff I'm seeing in the chat, and then I want to share this other handout. So without like getting into the nitty gritty of what some people are sharing in the chat, one the sort of a theme I'm sort of seeing is people who are used to being able to just show up to the class or show up to the gym and sit on and like go through the elliptical machines, like pre-programmed, or the things that like at the gym there's like a set of weight machines, and well, if you hit up 5 of them, you're going to hit most of your body parts. And I liken exercise and sort of this process to cooking. So a lot of people are really accustomed to getting their exercise the way we go out to eat, in that you pick the restaurant, you show up, you pick something off a menu, and they just like, here you go, eat. And like, as long as you like picked a decent restaurant and you picked a decent thing off the menu, like you're gonna get your nutrients. And like, great. Again, assuming that you're not eating like French fries at McDonald's every day.
That would be very balanced.
Right? I mean, but like that, so like you go to a decent gym and pick the decent class, you're like, I'm kind of getting my needs met. And I think one of the big parts of Zest Ed and why we're like educationally based is because you don't have to be a world-class chef to feed yourself a little bit better, to learn how to go grocery shopping, to understand like these are different food groups, these offer different nutrients, these are ways to put them together at home. And my method of like teaching people about like, so I might like write a workout for someone, and instead of just being like, here's your workout meal, eat it, like this is why it's here, and I want you to learn how to make it yourself. We're going to be in a process of learning to make it yourself. So I think one of the things that people are seeing a lot of disruption is because you can't just like go out to eat, and you can't go like the same analogy of you can't like go out to eat for the workout either. Right. You can kind of still do that. There are apps, there are online programs, but the idea is you're having to like like, oh, what do I need? What should I do? How do I do it? And I am currently in process of creating an online like course program for people to learn to do this online. Because it's something that I've been doing with individual clients all these years, but I'm working on being able to offer this as a sort of virtual class where people over probably a semester worth of time learn just the most basics of sort of exercise physiology, not like in depth, just a little bit, so that they feel more confident. And just as if like you learn to cook at home and you feel like, oh, I've got like a handful of meals and I know how to cook at home and I feel better about grocery shopping, it doesn't mean that you stop going out to eat. You actually, if anything, if you can cook at home, you feel that much more appreciative when someone else does it for you.
Yeah.
So it does, like, learning how to write your own workout or write your own training plan doesn't mean that you'll never take a class or go to a personal trainer or buy an app. It just means that you'll be a better consumer. And it means that you'll be better able to modify things for yourself. You'll be better at going, oh, but I know what that exercise is for. I know it's not good for me, or, you know, I know I like everything about this program. I'm going to add a little bit more of this because I know that's what I need. On that note, I'm going to try this fancy screen share thing.
Yes. By the way, John is saying he loves that food metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, screen sharing. So fancy.
Okay. I know. So,
and those who have registered for this, you're going to be getting this in your email as well. So, that's a nice little like freebie and thank you from Kym. So thanks, Kym.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of this stuff is stuff that we just already talked about, but the bottom, this part, right? This stuff is what I want to talk about because I think this is the basics of thinking like, oh, how do I structure myself and time and everything?
Yeah.
And this is, I would say, so thinking about the exercise and like your physiological biomotor abilities, this is not me making things up. This comes out of the textbooks and other exercise stuff I've learned. My take on it is adding the colors and like the visuals and helping understand like how does this apply. So 5 different things: strength, speed, endurance, flexibility, and control. I think the first 3 are pretty self-explanatory. Flexibility is, in this case, sort of passive flexibility, right? So this is just like, if I take your leg and move it, like, right? Or if you just completely relax, where does this go? Yeah. Control is another way to think of balance or coordination. It's your brain's ability to tell your body to do a certain sequence of movements and for you to be able to actually do it. So the control is a neurological process of your motor neurons being able to send a message to sequence your muscles and to move your bones in a certain way. Again, I think the first 3 are pretty like strength. Just, can you pick up the heavy thing? Speed isn't necessarily like how fast you can run, but speed could simply be like how fast you can like flick your finger up and down. It doesn't necessarily have to involve other things. So for example, they combine, so speed and strength equals power. So being able to, for example, jump up really high is a combination of strength and speed. Like, so, and as is like running, sprinting, a run sprint is like strength plus speed, because you can have speed that doesn't really involve a lot of strength. And then flexibility, control plus strength equals range of motion. So when you think of a dancer's ability to balance on one leg and raise their other leg super high, that's flexibility, yes, but it's also their control and their strength. All 3 of those things are in work at play. And so sort of a hot name in fitness is range of motion, and it's to think that range of motion is a combination of abilities, not just one. And then I've got these examples right? And there are lots of examples. I just wanted to pick 3 that were pretty different. So a bike tour, if you're going to do a multi-day bike tour, that is like mostly endurance, right? Big yellow blob. That's a lot of endurance. And then I would say the next up is the strength, this pink, followed by control. So the endurance is pretty obvious, right? You just need to be last. You need like all day biking and then wake up the next morning and do it again. That's a lot of endurance, right? And then the strength, obviously, to like keep pushing on those pedals, especially like hills and wind, it's a lot of strength. And then that control is like, don't fall off your bike. Both you need to be able to like balance on one leg to get the other leg over your bike and not fall over, and then just like constantly not fall over every time you reach for your water bottle or drop your water bottle, as you know, you've probably all done. You know, and then some flexibility, not a lot. It's a pretty small little dab of flexibility. Most of the flexibility is being able to get your leg over your bike. But the act of biking doesn't involve a lot of flexibility. And then speed, again, for a bike tour, it's not a race. Speed is not a big player here, other than like just being able to have your legs spinning in the pedals, not terribly slowly. Gardening, you know, it's a lot of strength. It's a lot of pick up the mulch, pick up the thing, put the thing over there. I'll say that I'm not a big gardener, so other people might be like, you know, the other thing is that people's personal experiences might be different, but for example, right? And then gardening, a little bit more equal between that flexibility, endurance, and control, right? Flexibility, obviously, because you're getting up and down from the ground. And so simply having to do that is going to involve flexibility. Endurance, simply because gardening usually is not like a 30-minute, like often gardening in a more intense way is going to take at least an hour and possibly more. I mean, I know lots of people I know garden for a good half day to a full day of gardening.
Yes.
And then like itty thing of speed, like it's almost non-existent, right? There's not a lot of real speed development in gardening. And then martial arts, this is just another good example of something that is huge on control, right? So especially, and this would go for dance as well, in the beginning, a lot of it is just learning new movements, learning new coordination. And then we add strength and flexibility and speed and endurance. I would say in martial arts, depending on the style, endurance is not the top priority. It's not the top thing. So yeah, that's just one way to be thinking about this, and that it ties back into knowing what you like to do. So thinking about what would this sort of look like for the thing you like to do, right? And then the question is, you know, oh, so for example, if you love gardening, you're like, man, I do not get a lot of speed in my go-to activity, right? So if I never do this, like this is something that will never get developed by doing only what I like.
Right, and that's where that balance comes in, right?
Yeah, right. And then that's the thing, okay, what else do I need to do to keep myself in balance? And that balance will both feed you for your like emotional life. But the other thing about that balance is that if you don't foster those things, eventually it leads to injury.
Yeah.
So that like, going back to the biking, if you like endurance biking, great, fantastic. Or endurance running, they're similar in the sort of like their distribution of biomotor ability. And it's not uncommon for bikers and runners to get super, super inflexible. And then this leads to injury. And then the problem is not only are you like physically not in balance because you are super overdeveloped in endurance and have less like dwindling levels of flexibility, but sorry, I'm getting distracted. Things are happening outside my area, but it's dwindling areas and you get injured. It's just, anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna get out of the screen share.
Absolutely.
So I can see other people.
All right. Yeah, that's great. I love that. I love that handout and how it just like it so specifically is like spelling out like the things that we need to be mindful of, like the mindful questions that we need to be asking ourselves so that we can create our own recipe, right? To use that metaphor or example again of like creating our own recipe to make sure that we stay in balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I kind of want to loop back, and also because I'm seeing a question, um, and kind of going back to like the first things, like know what you like, and like what if someone doesn't like exercise at all, or like either like there's a person who doesn't like exercise at all, or you're just at a time in your life where you're like, I'm like super unmotivated. Um, I would say if it's unusual, like this speaks to just lots of different situations. One is that if you normally like something and you normally like, let's say, biking, and you just can't bring yourself to do it and you are super unmotivated, this is when you see a mental health therapist. Right? Because if there are things you normally like and you don't like that. I don't know. Kathleen, do you want to speak to that at all?
Uh, if I had all the time in the world, I absolutely would share so much about this, but I will just like reinforce what you said is that like we don't have to be going alone in this, right? So seeking out a counselor or even like someone in your faith community or your own physical trainer, like seeking out support in whatever way makes sense to you is just so important right now. Because again, like especially during this time of like stress and our normalcy is upside down and there's so much grief and in some ways trauma, right? Because there's too much too fast. And so using your support is just so critical right now. So I will just reinforce your point
Yeah.
in saying that is absolutely needed.
And then the flip side to that is if someone has never liked an exercise, and I'll just address this fairly briefly because and this is one, because you can all email me later, and we can certainly talk. I'm always open to doing a free sort of discovery session with people. So just at no charge, I'm happy to just doing a sort of a one-time 30-minute chat. And then I also have like a consultation package in addition to sort of more long-term coaching options. With that said, if someone has never liked exercise, part of it, this is when I would suggest that they work with a professional who works with people who need to figure that out, because it can be fairly complicated. And just part of it is, are they even sold on that this is something they need to do? And if they are, they're like, I've never liked exercise, but I know I should do it. Great. This is when it would be really ideal if you had a professional involved to help guide that process to create positive experiences with exercise. But
Yeah.
the other, without that resource, is just try lots of things. Try all sorts of things. Try all of them with an open mind at least 3 times, because sometimes it's just a matter of them having a really preconceived idea of like exercise looks like that. And I've tried that and I hate it. And I'm like, fine. So there are a lot of options out there, and it's just keep trying things, try everything at least 3 times.
Yeah.
And do it. I would keep a journal and always be asking yourself, like, when you tried that thing, was it miserable? You absolutely hated it. What about it did you hate? And if you tried something, don't expect to love anything, because if you've never loved anything, it probably won't happen. But try it and be like, that was less miserable.
I love that. I love
I had
that.
a little less resistance to that. Like, what about that seemed more palatable? Like, that felt a little bit, I could take that medicine a little bit easier, right? Because then when you ask those questions, it gives, right, like, okay, so what was it about that, and how do I keep following those breadcrumbs to find some sort of exercise that does feel good, that I will feel less resistance towards?
Absolutely. And if it's okay, I just have like one more small idea to that is it's okay to start small. right? Like, so if you're going to try biking, don't go on a 20-mile bike ride, like ride around 2 blocks, right? Or like, if you don't have to like sign up for a marathon to see if you like running, you know, and I know I'm using extreme examples, but maybe like staying small with it. And again, especially just being aware of how much stress or change you already have going on in your life, and being gentle with yourself about if you're going to be trying something new, just stay small with it. Just let yourself taste things, right? Just take a nibble to see if you like the taste of it. And I love so much what you're saying, even about that journaling. I mean, that comes back to that mindfulness, right? Of like really asking ourselves to be inquisitive with ourselves about our experience. I love it.
Yeah. So I know we need to wrap up. So I'm just, my website is zested.net. And I think you all have my email, but it's Kym, Kym, at zested.net. And while I have all sorts of coaching things, the newest thing that really pertains to this mindfulness is I'm doing online yin yoga. So it's on YouTube Live, and it's on Sundays at 8:30 p.m. So it's like Central Time. So it's a bedtime routine to sort of cap off or start your week, depending on how you want to think of it. And so, yeah, that yin yoga is the antidote to intensity, is what I like to think of it. It's a very quiet, still practice. And I have to say we did our first one last Sunday, and I'll say it's a little bit weird because there's a lot of just silence, but we sometimes need some hand holding in being quiet and sitting still, myself included.
And even just like what you're saying, like how important to right now, because even if some of us are more attracted to things that are calm and soothing, we're all going through a lot really fast right now. And so this practice of slowing down, restoring, recovering, quietness is so helpful for anyone right now. So thank you so much for putting that out into the world. I just have so much gratitude for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, wonderful.
All right. I'm not seeing any last minute questions come in, but I am seeing that folks are finding that recipe idea very helpful and had some aha moments in there even. So thank you for sharing that. Love that. And again, coming back to that, like the small, like we can start small. We don't have to go big right now, especially right now. So I'm glad that this is really resonating with folks who are joining us live, and I'm sure it's going to resonate with people who are getting to see this on the replay. So, and thank you again. Kym, can you just one more time let us know your website and how to contact you if anybody has specific questions for you?
Yeah, so website is Zest, Z-E-S-T, ed.net. And that's sort of a portal to everything. So like there's links to my email and to our Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So if you go to the website, like everything else is there as well. So the YouTube channel is just Zest Ed. The Facebook and Instagram are Zest Ed Athletics are the handle for those. My email is Kym, Kym, at zested.net. Try to keep it easy for everyone.
Yes.
And then Kathleen wanted to make this donation. Oh yeah, she just put in the chat about the donation link, which I think one of you already has. I think I saw one of those go already too. Thank you. So, I mean, donations are wonderful. And I would just say, like, for people like Kathleen and I mean, right now, in my household, this now is our only income stream. We lost 3 part-time jobs in this whole COVID situation. And so right now, donations and whatever we can do is just going to sort of help us build Zest Ed and be able to offer more things like this.
Awesome. Thank you, Kym. And for those who are not familiar with One Moment Center, it is simply onemomentcenter.com. And if there are any questions for me, you can connect with me at info.onemomentcenter@gmail.com. Again, keeping it very simple, as Kym had said. And you can always hop on over to the Facebook page. Again, just One Moment Center. Just look that up in Facebook and it should come up so you can see upcoming events and other virtual options as well. So again, Kym, thank you so much for joining me for the first episode ever. Yay! In Living Mindfulness, just conversations. That's what we're doing together, just having these awesome conversations that are about our humanness and how we can stay more balanced. And so thank you again for presenting and sharing with us about exercise and how we can all use that, not just now in the times that we're going through, but long term in the future. So thank you again. And those who are live with us, thank you for being here live. Thank you for participating. Thank you for letting us know what you liked. And you'll see us around. So thank you, everybody. Kym, any other closing remarks that you have before we end this recording?
No, just thank you all and have a wonderful afternoon. It's sunny outside, so take advantage of it.
Absolutely. All right. So just to close, let's just take one, or I shouldn't say one, a few just deep cleansing breaths together. And just noticing any shifts in your body, your mind, your emotions. Notice any lessons or guidance or inspiration that came to you today during this activity that we all did together. Honoring yourself for showing up today. Let's bring our palms together in front of our hearts. Just bow our head, and I love to end with a namaste. Namaste, friends.
Namaste.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Join us live for the next episode. Whenever that comes out, you'll know. I'll be sure to push it out there to you guys. And have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.